Welcome back to the regular schedule where Binduji is going to continue on the Aparokshanubhuti classes. This is the 40th session, so if you are interested in catching up, all the 39 sessions are available, well catalogued on the YouTube channel, Advaita Retold. Or if you're used to Clubhouse, you can use the replays in Clubhouse. And that might be very useful for you to catch up because this is being started again after a month's break. For reference, Binduji is using the link ping above, which is a book by Swami Muktananda on Aparokshanubhuti, based on Shankaracharya's text. And that's purely an English transliteration. There's no interpretation. And the second one is a Sanskrit document from Acharya Vidyaranya, which is purely in Sanskrit. So those who know Sanskrit can use that also. But Binduji uses these two texts to come up with these sessions that he's conducting here. And for housekeeping, we'll shut down the chat and hand raising. And after about an hour, we'll reopen those for any information that you want to share or you want to talk to Binduji. And I think with that, Binduji, over to you.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you for your introduction. Welcome all back to the Indian timing. We have some 20 odd verses to complete for closing the Aparokshanubhuti session. So, since there was a gap of 1 month in between, I'll just recap the last 10 verses, which is related to the practice, what is required for having the intimate or immediate experience of the self, which is similar to the yoga, Patanjali yoga, Raja yoga, but the definitions are different in Advaita. So I'll just go through that before we commence to today's class. As usual, let me do my invocation. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrabhyo Vamshirshibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashikritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishwaro Gururatmeti Murtibheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Aparokshanubhuti. Sri Harim Paramanandam Upadeshtaramishwaram Vyavakam Sarvalokanam Karanam Tam Namamyaham. So, the steps involved in the Patanjali Yoga, which are Yama, Niyama, etc., has been used by Shankaracharya for the same purpose in the Jnana Marga for the Advaita Prakriya. The steps in order are control of senses, control of mind, renunciation, silence, space, time, posture, restraining the root or Mula Bandha, bodily equipoise, firmness of vision, control of vital forces, withdrawal of mind, concentration, self-contemplation, and complete absorption in the self. That is the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So in the restraining senses, which is as per Patanjali, here the restraining is not a sensual activity or a controlling or restraining of the senses as per the yoga But here everything is the self. That there is nothing other than the self. Therefore, there is no necessity of separating out based on the sense organs, the objects, the subject, etc. This is called the yama, and it has to be practiced continuously so that there is the feeling that we have separatedness will reduce over a period. The second one is niyama, the continuous flow of self throughout the continuous flow of the self-thought, the thought about the self, to the exclusion of all other thoughts is called niyama. Niyama is basically a restrainment of vrittis in the Patanjali Yoga. Whereas here it is that exclusion of all other thoughts and abiding in the thought of the self is what is called the niyama in the Advaita Prakriya. And in the renunciation, the next one is where there is a definite detailed discussion. Abandoning the belief in the reality of the phenomenal world by observing that it is the ever-conscious self. It is the immediate liberation also. The sense that what is when you are renouncing something, obviously you will be abiding somewhere else. Now, when you are renouncing everything else in the phenomenal world, the only possibility for you to is abide in yourself. Therefore, renunciation, which is called tyaga in the Patanjali Marga, is now to be done in the Advaitic Prakriya as abiding in the self, not with a force or a imagination or a mental activity. When you negate or when you renounce the reality of the phenomenal world independent of the self or the consciousness, then we get involved in the phenomenal world and get engaged into it. While when we renounce that the world can never be independent of the Brahman or Atman, that is the existence, consciousness and the bliss aspect of Brahman. When that is what the phenomenal world is, the way to renounce it, when you are doing it, there is no separatedness between oneself and the world outside. Just as we experience ourselves. Today we are experiencing ourselves as independent and separate from the world. But when we do the renunciation of the independent reality of the phenomenal world, that the phenomenal world is dependent on my reality or the reality with which I am also existing. The I is a question mark. We don't know what is the I. But at least this much we know that I experience my phenomenal world only when I am present there. Whether it is present when I am not there or not is not a question at all. It is just like what happens to the people in the dream, whether they are continuing to experience that dream world and the world of dream. When I stopped my dreaming and became aware of my waking or a deep sleep, abandoning the dream, we do not worry about the phenomenal experience of the phenomenal world called the dream. Same way, when we abandon or when we renounce the phenomenal world's independent reality, as when I am present, the phenomenal world is experienced by me. Therefore, the dependency of the phenomenal world is the same as the dependency for me, because I am also part of the phenomenal world. So the dependency of the phenomenal world and myself is in the common thing, which is my own awareness. The awareness not as an awareness of expression of the mind, but that which even knows the existence of the mind and the awareness in the mind. There is a consciousness or awareness or knowing which knows even the awareness which is happening in the mind. That awareness is neither mine nor the phenomenal world or anything. It is the reality on which the phenomenal world is experienced through my mind. So the awareness which is independent of myself and the phenomenal world is the one only reality. This way, when we renounce the phenomenal world, we abide ourselves in that reality. Even the ego and the individuality of the waker, the dreamer, of the deep sleeper, they have no existence in that awareness, because these three, waker, dreamer and deep sleeper, the phenomenal world of the waking, phenomenal world of the dream, and the absence of them in the deep sleep, are experienced in the mind of the waker. Therefore, when I am abandoning myself and the phenomenal world, in which I am an individual which is experiencing waking, dream and deep sleep, is also negated, I have existence independent of any body, any mind or any intellect or anything like that. The body-mind complex doesn't function there. At the same time, I know I am there. This knowing of I am existing is not a mental experience. It is same experience which we are going through in the deep sleep, that I knew nothing, but the I which knew nothing is not known to me. We do not analyze these awareness or consciousness which is functioning, and therefore we are not able to abide in it. But when we do this renunciation of the phenomenal world, which includes the body-mind complex of mine or yours or each one of us, then we will be abiding in our true self, which is nothing but the Atman or Brahman. Then they say that when you are doing such renunciation, the chances of perturbed mind is very, very likely, and you will be forced to depend upon the names and forms, nama rupa. This has to be, the word is not controlled, but consciously nipped at the bud by remaining silent. This silence is not the silence of the speech or the thoughts of the mind, but it is that silence which we will seek, which we experience in our deep sleep. There was a silence, that maunam, that is absence of names and forms for all verbal or, dependencies on the names and forms, all of them will be abandoned and the mind will be rebound in silence, which knows the silence of the deep sleep is what it is my reality, and that is present in the waking, dream and deep sleep unabatedly, without any ups and downs, without any waxing and waning of any sort of that. It is constant, continuous, permanent silence. That is what is called the maunam in the terms of Advaita. Then this silence becomes a natural abode for those who have perfected the act of silence, and they are called the sages. Others who practice restraining of speech by mouth, but mind is in full fluctuation or perturbance, that is not the silence what Advaita is seeking or asking it practitioners to follow that. It is that abidance in that silence which was conscious and we were aware of it, yet there were no words, no forms of any sort which brought our mind into activity. So that is the silence which is very important when you do the renunciation of the physical or the phenomenal world. Because the phenomenal world is nothing but names and forms. So when we did the tyaga of the phenomenal world, the silence which comes into our natural being is the silence or mauna which is being referred to by Advaita. Then there is the solitude. In that mauna or in that silence, there is that solitude which is free from any beginning, middle or end, which is always pervaded, where the silence is abiding. That is called the desha or the space, dik. It is not the space which we know with name and form in our waking or dream and deep sleep. Deep sleep, we don't have it. But as a waker, when we define it, you'll say, I slept on my bed. That is the waker's definition of where you are asleep. Your physical body is resting. But where were you when you were unaware of your body or time and space, etc.? That is the space where the silence and renunciation, all those things are abiding. So when we are denying the space, simultaneously we also have to deny the existence of anything called time. Normally when we say that the seconds, the minute, the hour, the day, week, year, etc. calculation based on the sun and the rotation of the earth, and we have calculated and brought. And our physical body, the circadian rhythm, has got its own timing. We live time bound, thinking that we have a birth, living and death. This is also within the realm of the time which we are all familiar with. But when you are abiding in that space where the silence is ruling and is renounced with any form of name and form, even the time becomes timeless or eternal. That eternity now is not just time bound, but it is space bound also, because it is abiding in the space. So even though we use the word space and time, the term space and time is not applicable in that where we experience ourselves without names and forms. Renunciation of all names and forms. All those things are connected to one another. Now in the Patanjali Yoga, there is something called a posture, asana. They have, the means in which a posture has to be done for meditation. As per the Advaitic thing, no posture is posture, but a spontaneous and continuous presence, as if it is in meditation, in that space of silence, is the space of happiness. So the posture which is being referred in the Raja Yoga or the Patanjali Yoga is related to the physical body, where we have an identity with the physicality. I am the man with this body. That feeling gives rise to me to do a posture and meditation, sitting in a posture. Whereas when I am abiding in the truth of absoluteness or my true nature of Atman or Brahman, then the renunciation, name and form, time, space, silence, all of them indicate to the posture or the abidance into that. It is no more a physical posture. When we do that, there is a perfect merger of the mind and the self. They two do not become separate and independent. It is the same self, which we call it as mind. When it takes the support of the universe with the names and forms, with the origin of beings, etc., as what we call it as the mind. But when that mind becomes no mind, amani bhava, it is not that the mind was there. It appeared in the same consciousness. It is the consciousness itself that is now being called the mind, because it is now depending upon the sense organs, space, time, etc., identifies with the physicality of our body-mind complex, and then we become individuals. But the body, mind, intellect, the world, everything is nothing but Brahman. or Atman itself, or consciousness itself. When we know that it is the consciousness, it is not a knowledge in the mind, but it's a knowledge when we abide in that silence and the space and time of infinity, where we realize that in the same mind, it is there where the names and forms are appearing, and I am creating the world of phenomenal world. The I which is creating is not the mind I. It is the same awareness which created the mind, which is now giving experiences in the same mind of the phenomenal world. But when we are doing that experiencing through the sense organs, we bring a dichotomy called the world is separate, I am separate from the world. But if you really do an analysis, the I which we are thinking now, the physicality, the body-mind complex, is part of the phenomenal world, which is nothing but expression of the mind. And the expression of the mind is nothing but the consciousness or the awareness itself. But when we forget, we call it as a mind. And when we abide in that silence, abandoning the names and forms, the same mind becomes the self. When we are depending upon these factors of Raja Yoga, like, using the attention on the tip of the nose for meditation, etc., all of them are acting based on the reality we feel that the physical body is I am. Therefore, I have to look through the mind, the tip of my nose, etc. And the pranayama which is mentioned in that is nothing but an activity in the mind as per the Advaitic tradition. In the Patanjali Yoga, it is a physical breathing in, holding and purging, which is called Rechaka, Kumbhaka, etc. Rechaka is breathing out. Puraka is holding it within. No, Puraka is the breathing in, Rechaka is breathing out, and Kumbhaka means in the restraining the breath inside. Once you breathe in, you are holding the breath and pouring out. This is the Patanjali Yoga method of yoga. Whereas in we have the same Puraka, Rechaka, and Puraka, Kumbhaka, and Rechaka. What is to be understood in the Advaitic tradition is that what we breathe out, Rechaka, first blessing, is the negation of the phenomenal world. It is when we negate the physicality of the world or the phenomenality of the world separate from us, that is Rechaka. And when we say that I am the consciousness or I am the self or I am Brahman, when we do that, that is the Puraka as per the Advaitic tradition. You are negating what is not real and you are trying to cultivate what is the reality of mind as per the tradition and the teachings of my Guru, and which I have been convinced of. When I'm doing that, this practice of abiding in that I am the self and negating the phenomenality of the world becomes the puraka rejaka. And when you are doing that I am the self as the puraka, when you are abiding what is the self which we know as that, when happens in the amani bhava, when the mind becomes no mind, abiding in that becomes the kumbhaka. Now, having revised what we have gone through this, we will go to the verses from today on. That's 121st verse. Vishayeshu atmatam drishtva manasah sthiti majjanam pratyāhāra sa vitneya abhyasanīyo mumukshubhihi. The verse number 121. Vishayeshu. Vishaya means object. Anything other than me is a Vishaya. Whether it is internal mental ones or external sensory dependent. Vishayeshu atmatam drishtva. I should see the selfhood. Atmata means selfhood. In the otherness. I see myself in me. Forget about my physical body or anything. When I am saying I, that is with a conviction that there is an I, say self. What is the self is not very clear to us, all of us. But as an awareness of experiencer, when I say I, the subject, anything other than the subject becomes the object. Therefore, they become the Vishaya or the object. But I don't see that myself in the object. When we develop that through the mind, that this supreme consciousness, when we absorb into that supreme consciousness and look at the objects with the vision of the supreme consciousness or the supreme awareness or the Chaitanya in us, it is because of my awareness, which I explained in the beginning of the class. That is the reason why the whole objectiveness, including my physical body, mind, intellect, everything which is subjects or objects of my knowing. When I absorb all the world of phenomenon into that consciousness or into that awareness that everything is nothing but awareness. The names and forms may be different. Our expression of the world may be different. Experience of the world may be different. That difference is due to the name and form and the qualities of it. But basic existence aspect in everything shows that we are all the same at the state of existence level. So when we merge all those things into that state of existence, it is called pratyāhāra. and those who seek liberation has to practice this of unification, using the knowledge of Satchitananda, or that existence, consciousness and awareness aspect as the fundamental reality of everything. Then we are in doing the pratyāhāra as per the Advaita. Atma, in the Vidyaranya's commentary, anātmā-peksha ātmānusandhānaha tadādhārinya rechakādi shabdavāchini idi bhāvārtha. Anatma upeksha. Disregarding anatma means non-self, the mind, the world, etc. When we negate them, atma anusandhana, the contemplation on the self. That is why when we negate something, we will automatically abide in something. Tad adharyan, to be understood as the real meaning of what we call rechakādi shabdavāchani. These are the terms of the word rechaka, puraka, kumbhaka, etc. Nanvayam trivido api pranayamo na kutrapi shruta iti apeksham. Nanu, suppose, there is an objection. I am trivida api pranayama. This threefold pranayama, that is puraka, kumbhaka, rechaka, na kutrapi shruta. Nowhere in the Shruti that is being mentioned. Iti akshepa, iti apeksham. If that is such an expectation or objection raised, atra adhikarinam ahardhan ayam iti. Atra, in here in this context, adhikarinam aha, to an eligible person it is stated that ardhena ayam iti. Ardham, the word ayam is a half verse referring to the text which is being explained. Ayam means this verse, which is ayam uktalakshana pramana pranayama chakarat vedatraya yukta ityartaha. See, this pranayama defined as above. Ayam uktalakshana pranayama. Chakarat, using the word, the participle cha. Vedatraya yuktaha. It is the harmony with the three Vedas, supported by them. Ityartha is the meaning. So that here it is being used as the Vedatraya, means Rig, Yajur, Sama. Prabuddhanam prakarshena asambhavanadi rehitattvena. Prabuddhanam means, Buddha means the enlightened ones. Prakarshena, prakarsha means to exalted or the full measure. Asambhavana adi rehitatve. Asambhavana. This asambhavana means the doubt whether such a thing can happen or not. Impossibility of obstacles. These are all the obstacles for that. Buddhanam atma bodha yuktanam nissandeho aparoksha jnaninam ityartha. What does it mean? It is for the awakened buddhanam, atmabodha yuktanam, endowed with the knowledge of the self. Atmabodha means self-knowledge. Yuktana means endowed with, one who is endowed with. Nissandeha aparoksha jnaninam. Aparoksha jnaninam, those who are direct knowers of Brahman. Aparoksha jnana means direct realization. Nissandeha, they are free from doubts. They have no doubt about it because they are experiencing it. Yogya idi adhyāhāra ta ita ata aha ajnanam idi. The implied meaning is yogya, means fit. One who is fit for this. Therefore, tataihi ata aha ajnanam idi. Hence the text says, this instruction is for the ignorant. Which instruction? The three Vedas and the pranayama of breathing, etc. In the Vesheshu Atmatam Drishtva Manasas Chidi Majjanam Pratyāhāra Savitneyaha Niyo Mumukshubhihi. That verse which I explained it. Pratyāhāram Lakshayati. What is the Pratyāhāra is being explained. Vishayeshu. With respect to objects. So, in the Pratyāhāra, the objects are as the substitute for the air. Ghada adishu yadva shabdadishu. There are objects, he is explaining the objects as physical objects and mental objects or the sensory objects. Anvaya-vyatireka atmadam sattā sphurattā priyatā matradam drishtva anusandaya. Anvaya-vyatireka, by the method of positive and negative or presence or absence or agreement or disagreement. Any of these are the meanings for Anvaya and Vyatireka. Atmadam, the identity of the self. As what? Sattā sphurattā priyatā matram. That is, sattā means existence. Sphurattā means consciousness. Priyatā means bliss. Matram means nothing but. So the self is nothing but existence, consciousness, bliss. Drishtva anusandaya, having experienced. Drishtva means experienced here, observed, experienced. Anusandaya, that is being contemplated upon. Manasaha antahkaranasya chidimajjanam. That is the time when the mind becomes no mind. Chidimajjanam, it is immersed in the chit or the consciousness. Nama rupa kriya anusandana rahityena. In the absence of names and forms and activity. Nama rupa kriya. What is that? The abidance will naturally happen. When you abandon the dependency on the nama rupa kriya, you are abiding in yourself. For example, let us look at our own example. When is the time when we are free from the nama, rupa and kriya, the name, form and the activity that I am doing thing? We don't even say that I am sleeping in our deep sleep. Forget about the names and forms. That is well known that there is no name and form in the deep sleep. But even the activity of deep sleep is not there for the deep sleeper. So from his point of view, nama, rupa, kriya, all the three have been denounced. And this renunciation is the pratyāhāra. Tata kim ata aha abhyasanīya iti. But it has to be a practice. Sleeping is not a practice. Sleeping happens naturally. I mean deep sleep. Nobody need to be told about, no, you need to practice your sleep. We all go to sleep without any effort. Or some people may have to take some tablet for sleeping because the mind is too agitated, not even able to quieten itself. So they need to artificially quieten that. Otherwise, most of us slip into sleep and we do not know why, when, how, where we slipped into that state. Same way when we wake up, who woke us up? From where did we wake? What was my state before I woke up? None of these things are known. I knew nothing. I was asleep is the statement which we make. These are all the story or the definitions given by the waker. Look at it from the point of view of the deep sleeper. That state which is there divide of the identification with the physical mind, body and intellect as a complex, plus the physical world, where the names and forms and activities are the three pillars propping up the experiences of the world of dream or waking. When the three are abandoned, or this is what the thing that the three Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama, that is for those who are ignorant. But those who are familiar with this Advaita learning, for them to abide in that silence, even whether they are awake or not. Even while awake, if we can abide in the silence of the self by doing this pratyāhāra means of, establishing our own nature in the waking, by renouncing the name and form and the activity of the three pillars, we are not falling into a sleep. We are fully awake. We have awakened to such a state that even the waking is no experience at all. Just as dream was negated, waking also is being negated. This is called parajagrat or supreme awakening. This has to be abhyasanīya, practiced. Look at our own mind. Observe it. This is what that mantra of Kena Upanishad I keep on repeating again. Pratibodha viditam matam amrutatva vindate. In every bodham or every experience, we are depending upon the name, form and activity. Knowing that the name and form and activity is given to the same existence consciousness awareness, appearing as different objects, vishayeshu. When that is negated, we will negate even the waking. Similar to the dream being unreal, the waking will become unreal to us and that is called the parajagrat. We will achieve that parajagrat, or we will be able to maintain our abidance in the self, whether we are asleep or awake, or doesn't make a difference, because all the three are not in me. Because the waking, dream and deep sleep is for the physicality of the body. I am not the physical body. In me there is no waking, dream and deep sleep. I am that awareness where nothing can ever happen without being aware of it. There is nothing happening, first of all. Only awareness remains as awareness. So when we abide in that awareness, with the names and forms absent, we cannot say we are sleeping. We are in parajagra. This is exactly what the abhyasa one has to practice before we go to the next two subjects, which is the culmination of the 15 steps, which I'll take it in the Friday's class. But this is a prescription given by Shankaracharya to us, how to have the Aparokshanubhuti, or the immediate realization, or the knowledge of the self, or being abiding by the Supreme Consciousness. How it can be done has been explained till now. Now the next two activities, which is part of the 15 steps, will give us a state where we do not have any questions about our own experiences, which we'll see it on Friday. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Bindoji. I've opened the hand raising and the chat windows. Namaste, Rajendra. Welcome.
Namaste, Prakashji. Namaste, Bindoji and Pearlji. or
Namaste.
Bindoji. Today's presentation somehow got me a bit emotional. It's an ongoing thought which I've been having for quite some time. And today it just came out like totally flat out. This idea of renunciation, and to abide in the state of awareness. I do understand this, and there might be a reason for this, but the reason for this is not clear. There's like a contraction to oneself, inner self, to consider the experiences as, I'm not sure if you're saying as they are not real, or you're saying, to detach from that realness. So the issue I have here is like this, it's very close to nihilism. It's very close to saying, renouncing. This word renouncing, I mean, is it detachment? Because in detachment, I can still consider it as true, but I'm not affected by it. To renounce it is something, it's an abandoning of something. And if this is done, and if we are sitting in this space, how do you then, teach any approach to karma yoga or how to deal with this reality apart from this renunciation? Is there a way, like, when things are deconstructed, is there a reconstruction mechanism? Maybe you can explore that. Thank you.
Yes, Rajendra, can understand that this question is quite a valid one for most of the people. Detachment can be done only from something which is really available there. But what we are talking about renunciation is the value and the reality given to the same thing as something else. Now, for example, when I am telling you to renounce, there is something called a cloud separate from water. That is not a detachment from cloud. It is knowing the reality of the cloud as water. We are not destroying our experience of the cloud, nor we are going to anyway stop being what we are to experience the cloud. But we are knowing the reality of the cloud as water. Or in the case of a snake and a rope, when I am saying you to renounce the snake, only then you will know the rope. You are not detaching from a snake which is not there. You are already attaching yourself to the vision of the rope, but your vision was it as a snake, just as the cloud as separate entity apart from water. So, when we are looking at the world, we are thinking the world is real. There is a reality there, but we call it as world because we do not know the reality is what. What Advaita is saying that the reality is nothing but existence, and that existence itself is awareness. What is called the existent awareness, you are now giving it a name called the phenomenal world or the individual, the karma, the mind, the reaction, action, everything. Nama, Rupa, Kriya, name, form and action. But in existence and consciousness, there is neither the name, nor the form, nor the action. Just as the cloud has a name and form only when it is seen as cloud. When you are looking it as water, you cannot call it as a cloud, but you will call it as water. So the name from cloud became water. The form of the water is only there as long as it is being seen. The moment it drops down as rain, the cloud drops down as rain, the form has changed from the cloud to the rain, which is its waterness. So, the name and form was transient in nature. At that time, it appeared real. What Advaita is asking is same. The waking world is a transient world, which is ever changing. The world is changing, you are changing, your body is changing, your experiences are changing. There is nothing permanent in it. But the reality which we are experiencing is a permanency in it. That reality is not of the changing things. The changing things cannot have a permanency. The reality is the only permanency, and that reality is existence and awareness or consciousness. We call it as Atma or Brahman. You can call it by any name. It doesn't make a difference. That when we understand, we are not negating the experience of cloud or the rain or the water, but we all accepting is that everything is water. Same way, everything what we are calling it as a me, the world, Prakash, or the Rajendra or anybody for that matter, is nothing but consciousness and awareness. I am transacting with the different names, but it is me, which is my consciousness and awareness, is the same consciousness and awareness as Rajendra. There is no two consciousness and awareness. When I understand that, I don't have to interact with you. At the reality level, there is no need of interaction. But at that transactional level, I am talking to you, trying to make you understand the whole thing. Don't mix up when you are transacting. You should be doing should be seeing the reality in the transaction. No, understanding the reality, the transaction is in transaction. So, what happens is that the transaction will not be binding us, because we know that the transaction is not real, the reality is the existence and awareness, which is common with me and Rajendra. So when Rajendra is upset or Rajendra scold me, why should I get upset? Because I know the consciousness and awareness is the same. I will not be reacting. I'll be hearing that, but I will not be reacting. But if I do not know this reality between you and me, your actions can hurt me or give me happiness. Happiness or sorrow is coming from the ignorance of which has created the duality between you and me. But when I have the knowledge that the duality is a phenomenon, which is for transaction purpose, the reality is only one, your actions has neither happiness nor sorrow for me. It is just a appearance. It is very difficult to practice this. That is why Advaita as a knowledge, after having acquired the knowledge, we have to put it into practice on our every experience, pratibodha viditam. Then only you will be able to see the reality and the transaction world, the separatedness between the two. Otherwise, the transaction world will become reality. Just as the rope became the snake and the snake is the reality, or the water became the cloud became the reality, and we transact with the cloud. We have to know the reality. Transaction is with the reality, but a name and form for the phenomenal purpose. That's all.
Yes, Bintoji, that's really clear. That what we see, name, form, they are temporary appearances of unchanging consciousness or awareness. This what you speak of. So these appearances, we have a whole process to say that they are not true, to renounce them, to detach or not, how you want. Is there a knowledge based to how to correctly name and form, or all name and forms will have to collapse as appearances.
Yeah. Sureshwaracharya says in the Brihadaranya Bhashya, avicharita samsiddham idam jagat vicharena nashyati. This world is a creation because we are not inquiring into it properly. But once we inquire into the reality of the world, of phenomenal experience, the phenomenality will be replaced with reality. Then the transaction is with the reality, and the phenomenality is an appearance. That is the way we will be able to do that. And this needs practice, a lot of practice, because our mind is not matured enough to accept the fact that the mind is an appearance. Because how will you say that? If I tell you that Rajendra, you are an appearance, you will not accept it. Because you know, for you, you are real. Rajendra, the name is real. The physicality which you have nurtured till now is real. The interaction with the society, the family, everything is real. How can you say I am an appearance? But the reality is that Rajendra, the name and the form, is an appearance. The reality is that it is nothing but awareness or consciousness. Rajendra, the very name is in consciousness. The very form which you are holding is in consciousness. There is no form separate from consciousness. Because if you remove the consciousness or the awareness from that, can it independently exist? Just as when I remove the wateriness from the cloud, can the cloud independently exist? No. Same is the case with Rajendra. But we cannot accept that Rajendra is an appearance. But when you are abiding yourself in that consciousness, everything, Rajendra becomes an awareness, Bindo becomes an awareness, and the appearances which we thought that Rajendra or Bindo will be clear that they are dependent realities or dependence on the name and form only. There is no reality to it. Because it came one day or it will not last forever. But what will last is the existence on which the name and form was given from the birth or from the embryo onwards, or whatever that name and form which today you are holding. And the day you think that, or even the day, every day when you abandon it and you come back and take the same awareness, the same body and everything, you think that it is the same because of the memories. But the body has gone through, it has shed so many millions of cells. The time and the space in the cosmos and the universe has changed. The earth has moved, the sun has moved, the galaxies have moved. We are not in the same spot. All those things are forgotten when we transact. We think the world is real. I am real. I am experiencing this world. Only when you are renouncing that I amness of Rajendra and look from the awareness point of view or consciousness point of view, you will have the clarity. You will have to do that by practice. It is not which is achieved by anybody. It has been achieved by many in many millennia. They have written down, which has been passed on to us Our masters have practiced it and achieved. There have been masters even now living and walking in this world who have realized that. But you cannot make a difference between them. Because the physicality, the name and form is just as much as appearance as like Rajendra and Prakash and, we will not be able to make out their, knowledge. It is their experience of themselves. They are not separate from us at that experiential level. But when we look at them as separate and physicality because we are not abiding in ourselves. The moment, the day or the very time you abide in yourself, everything collapses. That is what is called the renunciation. And you will be in pure awareness of that I am there, but there is no name and form. I knew nothing. That will be the experience.
Yes, Bindoji, that's very clear. How I see it is, we wake up to a construction, and the idea is to deconstruct it. What I'm asking is there an advised knowledge process for the reconstruction? To stay in the deconstruction is okay. Yeah. Because there is a construct, you know what you are transacting with, so you know that that's name and form, that is the construct, and you deconstruct it. Okay, you deconstruct it. And now you would give new name, new form, a new mapping, and you can again deconstruct it to stay in this, sitting with the self, or abidance with the self, as you say. But my concern here is really around this reconstruction part. We know there's a construct. We know the construct is not real, or real, but dependent on name and form. So we deconstruct it. Okay, I get that. I can sit with that. I can be in silence with that. But what are my tools to reconstruct? If you can just point to that. Thank you.
I can understand you, Rajendra. When you have really deconstructed completely and abiding in that, the question of reconstruction will not arise. It is just like that. Having known that snake is no more snake but rope, the snake can never appear. You can visualize the snake, but that visualization as it is unreal, and therefore no transaction is reality. You may visualize that, imagine the snake or what you saw by mistake can be still imagined in that. But that is a memory. Actually speaking, you are not seeing it, but when you are visualizing it, you are bringing it back from your memory of the same vision which you had. Same way, when you are abiding in the self and you are fully deconstructed this phenomenal world reality, you will continue to abide in the reality and look at this phenomenal world as unreal, but you will not reconstruct it. What is deconstructed can be visualized, imagined, and transacted. You are not transacting because you know there is no transaction. So how do you say that reconstruction and transaction is happening really? From the abiding point of view, there is no action. So the reconstruction and the phenomenal world activity is for the people in the dream who are continuing to be in the dream. You have woken up. You don't reconstruct the dream again. You know the reality of the dream. What was it? It was my own projection, my own awareness which projected it. The waking is no way different from that. That is why I said it is a parajagrat. It is a waking above, beyond this waking. In that state, you don't reconstruct anything because there is nothing to be constructed for an imaginary thing or appearance thing. I do not know whether my explanations are good enough or
No,
clear enough.
they're good. They're good. I do feel the space of Jagrat, and I do understand. And my question around the transaction, and perhaps you can pinpoint in the error of my thinking, is that yes, snake rope, yes, but now I know that it's the difference. I have deconstructed the name form. But now when I'm, transacting with Vinodji, I want to scare him. I will tell him that the rope is a snake. Or if I want to invite him to come and speak with me, I will tell him, no, it's not a snake, it's a rope. So I can trick him. So now the rope and snake, that has been deconstructed for me. Now it's become a trick or a magic or a tool, a different kind of tool. So there's a third tool which I've just created in my reconstruction. Again, I wish like there was someone here who was in Parajagrata, in supreme awakening and still alive, still in his body. And then he will then say, now what? Now how do I transact? What I can deconstruct, yes. And how do I reconstruct? I see it as an illusion. I see it in the world of appearance. And yes, there is an existence. Yeah. So as long as the existence is there, the appearances, the name and form, of course, they will keep changing. They are like maps. Yeah. The map is not the territory. The territory is something of its own, but I still need a map. I would still, without the map, I won't be able to fully navigate the territory. But I have to know that my maps may be incorrect. My maps may have to be redrawn. My name and form, I would have to deconstruct it, but then I would have to reconstruct it. So unless, of course, if then one just, completely retreats.
So, Rajendra, the thing is that you have to extrapolate what I told you about your dream. If you have really gone into Parajagrat, this waking experience will be like you have woken up from this waking, but the people in this waking are continuing. They will see the person who has gone into Parajagrat and think that he is still there, physically available, interacting, and the world thing. From his point of view, he has woken up from this waking. Just as he has woken up, we all wake up from our dream, and the people in the dream continue to experience us in the dream. Same way, this phenomenal world will continue to experience the guy who has gone into Parajagarat. From his point of view, he is not there separate from it. Yatra na anyat pasyati anyat shrunoti anyat bijanati. That is the statement of a Parajagrat person. He doesn't see anything other than himself. He doesn't hear anything other than himself. Or he doesn't interact with anything other than himself. So that is his thing. So from his point of view, it is different. And from the people in that waking who have not yet gone into Parajagrat is different. That is where the difference lies.
Yes, Binji, we call that solipsism, but, I really appreciate the conversation and leave the space for others. Thank you so much.
For the wonderful questions, interactions. Namaste, Balaji.
Namaste, Binduji. I guess you're from Kerala.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. Actually, you are like our good Nisargadatta Maharaj, right? Navanath Sampradaya, like that. You are sharing your experience. My only curiosity, Vinodji, is this stuff actually, right? The one who attained the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Right, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Devi used to say that the body cannot withstand beyond 21 days. Once they attain that Nirvikalpa Samadhi, it is not attaining, we can't even say attaining, right? It just happened, like you attain, again I have to say attain, you attain Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you cannot stand, in your body for over 3 weeks actually. But the Ishvara Kodis are avatars. They stand to be there in the body like Sri Ramana Maharishi, Nisargadatta Maharaj, even Swami Vivekananda. They kind of maintain their body for the sake of imparting knowledge to the general public. Right, to help the general public attain their own satisfaction, be it mukti or whatever. Right, generally having attained the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, that they become a Sthita Prajna. So they don't basically see the world, right? As we see, Ramana Maharishi, as we know all, right, his concept is all about deep sleep and all, right side of the body, the heart, that's all there actually. What do we normal human beings would be definitely curious to know what these Bhagavans who attained the peakest of the performance, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, what do they actually see? Right, they don't definitely see the world at all. Right, so who is asking question? Who is answering? That prarabdha karma, all that stuff, it's all fine. The chakra has to roll and all that stuff, I understand. But then, generally, we would like to know what do they see? Right, they see everything as Brahman. So who is answering the questions? Right, I would like to refer to this particular chapter of 28. All suffering is born of desire, from the book I Am That by Swami Nisargadatta Maharaj. There is the gentleman coming from far off country. He had some inner experiences, being the disciple of ductless Adi, right, the headless way. I'm not much into that particular stuff actually, but this guy somehow got a sudden epiphany. Right, he got some kind of an experience and he wanted to share with Nisargadatta Maharaj. He stated that he didn't feel that he was in the body. He felt that he is there all over the place everywhere. And he said, as to the mind, I can switch it on and off. This makes me feel I am not the mind. The Maharaj is asking him, when you feel yourself everywhere in the world, do you remain separate from the world or are you the world? He stated both. Sometimes I feel myself to be neither mind nor body, but one single all-seeing eye. When I go deeper into it, I find myself to be all I see and the world and myself become one. Then the conversation goes on, but this very gentleman is asking Nisargadatta Maharaj about lust, love and all that stuff. So he is coming into the regularity of our, normal human beings working. So Binduji, I don't know whether you experienced anything firsthand. Firsthand in the sense some kind of an epiphany or some kind of soul-stirring thing actually. But then, my prime question is, what would have been the case of Sri Ramana Maharshi or Nisargadatta Maharaj to see the world? Is there any world for them as a Sthita Prajna? Kindly enable me to understand. Thank you so much.
Balaji, we have to resort to Upanishads or Aptavakya, like the master's words, for confirmation. And that confirmation has to be done by us, each one of us. The reality of experience is there this very moment in you, me, and every one of us. If that is not there, neither you, me, or anyone in this will not be there. This world itself will not be there. It is there that what we are, because of which we are. If it is something which is coming, definitely it will go. So if anybody is saying any experience, it is something which is coming and that it will go. No experience is Atma experience, because Atma Anubhava is the Anubhava which is there right now. The experience of the self is there right now for everything, even the iota of atom, which we can call it as. What is there is we are clouded or covered with a identification which is not our true self. That identification of you as Balaji, me as Bindu or Prakash or Vinod or anybody for that matter, that has to be analyzed. When you analyze that, that is the time when you realize that they are not permanent, they are temporary, and they are not real. And they are all dependent upon what? Memory. Memory is nothing but part of the mind. And the mind is nothing but the reflection of the same self. So what happens is that when we know this reality, there is nothing which is separate from us. And when you see that non-separatedness from us, in that, how can there be an action when there is nothing, there is no second one? The activity, either listening, talking, teaching, everything is happening only for when there is something else. When a person has seen that or realized himself, from his point of view, there is nothing which is happening, because he doesn't see anything separate from him. He doesn't hear anything separate. He doesn't know anything separate. But those who are surrounding him continue to see him as the physical body, and they feel that he is still acting in that physical body. He doesn't even identify the physical body as his. He doesn't even know there is a physical body, because he doesn't see anything separate from it. So such a situation is that the listening of the words and others by people, they attribute so many things on people, like Nisargadatta Maharaj or Ramana Maharshi or Vivekananda, Ramakrishna or anybody for that matter. But reality is that you are Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta Maharaj, Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, all the same. Because you are the same self. Only when you know that as the reality without your mind controlling you to believe that you are the physical body, you can be free from all these things. Then you become silent. You become teacher. You become a madman. Or you do ruling a kingdom like Janaka. Nothing matters because that person is no more a person from his point of view or this thing. But for others, that person will continue as Ramana Maharshi or Nisargadatta or Janaka or Vivekananda, like that. This you have to experience. You are experiencing it right now, but it is being controlled by your mind, which is not allowing you to go deep into it. So that Amani Bhava, which I was talking about, whenever there is no mind, only at that time you can be in that. But when the mind comes, to others it will appear that you are functioning in the world. When the mind is no mind, for you there is no mind anymore. But for others they will see that mind is still functioning. That is explanation which I can say. Shastra says that, Chandogya Upanishad 7th chapter, Narada has been told by his brother. Same thing is told by Nisargadatta Maharaj in the current book, I am that. Ramana Maharshi,
Thank you.
Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, all of them are told that.
Yeah, Vinod ji, one thing is, I understood that actually. For us, there is Ramana Maharishi in the body, Nisargadatta Maharaj in the body, and all that is fine. Right? The answers that are coming from them, is it the questioner that is getting the answer through his own self? That is one part. Second part is the analogy given by Swami Vivekananda in his famous lecture given at the Lahore after coming from Chicago. Beautifully, he has said, like you said, he has given that analogy that how pearls are being made. The pearl is getting an irritation because of the sand getting into it, and it covers with this juice, that particular sand, that becomes then the pearl. Right? Swami Vivekananda stated that our mind, Atman is one thing, take it as X, and our mind is kind of, Atman is there, our mind is X actually. This X is so powerful that everything that is there to be seen on Atman is covered over by the X. So it can be internal as well as external. He used to give the triple example. On the lake, you throw a stone, the lake, the ripple is coming out. That is external. Similar way with your memories, like you said, this is all about memory. What I would like to ask you is, of course, we cannot know what Ramana Maharishi says. He is Sthita Prajna. I would like to ask you, they are not seeing the world, they are not there in the body, they are not there in the mind, they are one with Brahman. Right, how Sri Ramakrishna used to give that example of ice being formed in the infinite ocean. Right, because of the Bhakti Bhava, the ice is being formed, there is separateness there. And with the dawn of the knowledge, the ice gets, melted, then everything becomes one. Then another example he used to give, the finest of example. Right, the pot and the pot and the sun. 10 different parts are there. 9 got broken. There is only one left. Right, what will happen when the last one gets broken? He stated that it cannot be known because there is no reflection there. You know everything actually. I don't need to dwell much upon it. I would like to know from you explicitly, right? Who is asking this guy who is a normal human being? He is asking questions to Ramana Maharishi, Nisargadatta Maharaj. Thomas Friedman guys, these guys, the Ramana Maharishi is giving out the answer, right? He has got nothing to do with the world, nothing to do with the questioner. So who is answering that answer?
Reality and one truth and only one which is existing. It is that which is giving the answer.
On that note, Binduji, I think it's beyond your usual scheduled time. If you want to continue, we can. Otherwise,
Vinodji, that one is there, everybody knows, right? The one without a second. That is fine actually. I am little, basically, of course I have to delve, as you said, we need to dive deeper into our own self to get the answer. But that Ramana Maharishi is speaking through his mouth. He is hearing the question. He is giving the answer. So you mean to say that Brahman himself is giving the answer to the questioner. So that is, he himself is Brahman, but he not being aware of it. He is getting the answer from some source. That source is Brahman. That's what you would like, you have stated, Vinodji.
Lalaji, you are there in your dream, and the person in the dream asked you a question. You answered it. Now, the person in the dream and you as a dreamer in the dream, are they different, separate entities or one creation of one creation? They are one creation. So who is answering whom?
Oh, sir. No, this was what stated by Vivekananda also. You cannot ask question when you are in a dream. So he stated nobody has got the answer for all this. Right? When you are in a dream, you cannot ask a question and then get the answer there. You need to get out of the dream. That's what you meant. But then I thought that there will be some other, different answer. Simple.
No. I am not talking what Vivekananda said. I am asking a simple question, simple analogy. It is an example. The whole world of creation of the dream is your creation. Your creation, you created the dream world. You became the dreamer in the dream world. And there is a people who are asking question to you and you are answering to the question. Now looking into that example, can there be separate material of the dreamer and the one who is asking a question? Or are they nothing but the same consciousness which is became the dreamer as well as the the person who is asking the question? They are the same. Same is the case in the waking also. That one Satchidananda, that self, is the one which is Ramana Maharshi and the person who is asking the question to Ramana Maharshi. Both are the same. It is from the same creation. When you do not know that reaction, that situation, you will see Ramana Maharshi separate, the questioner as separate. But once you have realized the truth, you have understood that there is no separate Ramana Maharshi and there is no separate questioner. They are all nothing but the same Ekameva-Advitiyam Brahma. With that note, I think today I'll close the date. So I think we'll continue in Friday. And if you have further questions, you can come on Friday. Or next Sunday, we'll have an open house where you can ask further questions on this. Thank you all. Hari Om. Good night.
thank you, Binduji. Hari Om. Good night. Good night, everyone.